Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's Susan.
Hey, Susan. Thanks
Hi,
so
Nikki.
much
Hi,
for joining
Gareth.
us.
Hi.
It's so great having you here today. Thanks for joining us for this episode. So, Susan, I'm going to let everybody know how I met you and how I know you. And then we're just going to take our conversation from there. Sound good?
Good.
So, I think I've known you now. It must be 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
The first time, 4 years?
Yeah, 4.5. Yeah.
4.5. Well, time flies when you're having fun, right? You were in a group fitness class of mine. And I remember because you were front and center. I'd never met you before. So I thought immediately, I was like, that's a really cool place to stand front and center, because normally people hide at the back. But you were front and center, sucking in all of my wonderful coaching. Just thought I'd say that out loud. But really enjoying the class. But what was really cool, and I remember this so vividly, is everything I was saying, I could see you taking on board and implementing and tweaking. And, you know, as the class went on, you just got more and more confident and your weight selections changed, etc., etc. Then after the class, you came up to me, and I'm so glad you did. And you said that, you know, I had such a great time. I want to take my training to the next level. And I want to do it with you. How can I make that happen? Right? Fast forward 4.5 years. We're still best buds, which is fantastic. So that's how I met you. So I would love to hear more about, I guess, your side of the story, your journey. And I think the listeners would too. So go for it.
I'd love to, because I love this story. I think it's such a great one. So, you know, like many people, I had been, I wasn't a sporty kid, not a sporty family, but in my, as a young adult, I became very athletic and did a lot of stuff. And then I had a fantastic career that kind of absorbed me. And I stayed reasonably fit, but had done zero formal training, had not ever joined a gym, quite frankly. And I found myself at a time in life where I had more time suddenly. And one of my biggest goals to make use of that time was to become more fit. So I joined a gym, which was not, and I thought, again, this is just back to the old. I didn't really think it was for me, but there was no harm in trying. And one thing, I'm not really afraid of much of anything. So I thought, well, I'll join and see what happens. So I was trying some different group classes just to try and find my way. And it was only the second time I had taken that particular course, a third time. And I came and you were teaching it. And by the end of that class, I thought, I want to do whatever she teaches, wherever she teaches. I want to work with this person. And so again, bravely, I came up and I said, what else do you teach? And you, of course, said, oh, I do this, you know, this team training and like this boot camp kind of stuff. And of course, first thing in my head was, oh, not for me, absolutely not for me. I can't do that kind of stuff. But you were like, just come to one. I was like, okay, fine, I'll come to one. Yeah, you know, I've been embarrassed a lot in my life. I've been, you know, whatever, nothing to lose. So I came to one, and guess what? I came to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And that team training at the gym became so critical to me. I loved it so much. I never once thought, oh, you know, I don't want to go. So loved it. Fast forward, of course, the gym's closed. First thing that crossed my mind was, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This is terrible. And like many people, sort of scrambled. And then eventually along came the Nock Academy. And again, once I had gotten really to love the team training in the gym, I thought, there's no way I could ever do home training, online training. It's just not the same. And so again, of course, I gave it a try when you guys opened your academy. And guess what? Fantastic for me. Perfect. You know, it's easy to say the little bits of things that you miss from the gym, but the sense of community is there, the consistency, like I want to show up because the two of you show up 100% every single time. And I have so much admiration for that. So for me to not at least show up, you know, how's that? And I guess another amazing thing for me has been that now I can train from many places. And Nikki, of course, you've seen me from what used to be a guest room in our house.
It's now the gym.
But now it's the home gym. Sorry, guests. You know, up at the cottage, the in-laws, dusty exercise room, a friend's basement. So to be able to train anywhere now has been just amazing. So I achieved my goal of becoming more fit. So since that first time I joined your class, Nicky, I have remained fitter than I was for many, many years, so happy. Just love it. So that's my kind of journey. And of course, along the way I met Gareth.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Don't worry about him.
We joked about that pre-recording about how you kind of found Nicky and got stuck with me, which happens to a lot of people. So you're not the only one.
Buy one, get one free.
Let me say this, because I know we're being recorded. You are my two very favorite coaches in the entire world. And it doesn't really matter which one is my very favorite, which one is second. You are my two favorite coaches.
You feel better now?
Thank you. Yes. I feel validated.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Susan, thank you for sharing your story. And it's really lovely to hear your side of the story as well, right? Because this, in all honesty, is probably the longest that we've really sat and chatted, right? Because you just have those few brief moments in between sessions or before session or whatever it might be. So I love that it's something that's made such a change in your life, right? It's not just about the workouts.
No.
It really has helped you along your way feel fit, whatever that means to you. I know that's such an umbrella word, but it's obviously making an impact that, you're still here 4.5 years later. Yeah. So my next question to you really is then what does that mean? What does that umbrella word of fit mean? Like, what has it enabled you to do, to achieve physically and mindfully over these 4.5 years?
So physically, there's no question that there's a huge difference. I'm currently working on an art project at home that requires me to run up and down 3 sets of stairs constantly all day, because I work out of our home. I don't have a perfect studio setup. So I'm constantly needing to run to the lowest floor to do something, run up to the upper floor to do something, and I know that before I could not be doing that, running up and down the stairs all day long without fatiguing. And so I noticed that for sure. My husband and I are avid hikers and snowshoers, and hiking on rough trails, I'll notice the difference in terms of just the strength and being able to climb steep things. My balance, when I first joined your class, Nicky, I could not balance on one foot. I could not do any one-sided exercises whatsoever. And so that became a real goal of mine, and I practiced it a lot. And I love that now, that I can be quite stable on one foot. So imagine the difference that would make, like hiking on rough terrain and things like that. We snowshoe, and when you first snowshoe early in the year, you're dragging heavy boots, heavy snowshoes through heavy snow. So you can imagine your hip abductors the first time, normally they're just crying, because that's not something you use a lot in the summertime. Guess what? I noticed a huge difference after the training when snowshoeing season starts along. So those are just a few of the physical things. But this idea of feeling fit, I feel, I love feeling strong too. I had never done weightlifting before joining you guys. So just the notion of feeling strong. So it's not so much that I really need to lift any really heavy thing, but I love the feeling of being able to lift things. I'm certainly straighter. I'm certainly more mobile. So I like just my joint, great feeling in the joints. So there's the physical aspect, but to me, that physical activity, like being active, for me, being outdoors is so important, and being active is kind of goes part with that. And it's the mental feeling that comes with that I treasure so much. And that's enormous for me. But back to the friendship, it's wonderful to have. I feel very close to both of you, even though our relationship is, as you say, it's a certain kind of friendship. It's not the same as a normal friendship. It's not the same you have with your family, but it's there and it's real. And it's, seeing both of you, seeing little snippets of your life, seeing you regularly, and even the community of the other. That was one thing I knew, or I thought I would really miss leaving the gym, was the community of the other people in the class, because that's so powerful. But that is still there. Just knowing that they're there, seeing how many people have continued through from the physical gym days, and just seeing the little hellos at the beginning of the class, and seeing their dogs and their laundry rooms, and
Real
a little
life.
spy into their lives, and the little goodbye at the end. So that sense of community and friendship is wonderful. It's really wonderful to have that, and I treasure that.
And it's actually, I don't know if you agree with me, Susan, but I actually think that's been amplified since being online, because you're not just you at the gym, it's you at home. So you're right, we do get to see people's pets, I don't know, children, surroundings, hobbies, interests. And if you're actually watching this on YouTube, there's a beautiful lamp in shot that Susan made, right? Like, I would never have got to see that if we were just in the gym having a session. So I actually think online we get to know a bit more about each other. Do you feel that way too?
Absolutely. Those little snippets of the personal life, I think, are wonderful. It really, I don't want to say humanized, because it's not that we're dehumanized, but it just brings that a little bit more level of, we're all people, with laundry rooms and whatever, So yeah.
We definitely live by the kind of come as you are principle, and everybody shows up, and I love that too. And I haven't really thought about it deeply, but just the fact that I know one of our members has got the same rug as us from IKEA in their lounge. And I know what someone's dog's now, and I know I see the same dogs in the same cats, and I see all those things that, like Nicky said, you just take for granted. You don't think about them because you come, and I almost think it, maybe not initially, but it gives people the power to drop any version of them that they thought they had to turn up to as the gym.
Yeah.
When they went to the gym, right? They turned up, and they had to be in a certain outfit, or be a certain way, or be a certain, because they were walking into the gym. As now I'm like, you're just in your house. So it doesn't matter to us, and hopefully it doesn't matter to everyone else as well. So
yeah, for sure.
So I want to go back a little bit to our conversation around how I first met you, and talk a little bit more about that step that you took from being in the safety of 20, 30, whatever, however many people in a group fitness class, to taking that step and saying, hey, I feel like I want more. I feel like I can do more, and I want to be shown the way. Like, that in itself is such a brave thing to do. And you said that, right? Like, stepping out of your comfort zone to even have that conversation with me. And you haven't met me, you did before. You just spent, an hour with me. So that step of bravery of just having the conversation, and then showing up in an environment which, again, is uncomfortable. So you've gone from a room of 30 people to 10, 4, 8, whatever it might be, in a small group training setting. So if somebody's listening and they're like, well, that's me, I love group fitness, but I think there is a next step up for me, like, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, it's just do it once. Just try it once. There's no harm, and there's no risk there. There's no harm. Everybody in your classes is there for themselves. They're there for the community, but they are there to do their own workout. And so there's absolutely no judging, but it isn't just that. People are there to focus on themselves. And I think, I'd forgotten this, but you mentioned, Nicky, that in your class I was front and center, because again, I was new at this. I really, I love, how do I put it? I feel that I'm very coachable. When I do something, I want to do it as well as possible. And I want to absorb whatever I can from the really expert people who know more about it than I do. One of the most empowering moments in my life, and it didn't come nearly early enough, was knowing that working with people that know more than you do, or are better than you at something, is the best thing that can possibly be. It's not a reflection on your own weaknesses. It's an opportunity for you to become even better than you already are. And so Coming to boot camp that first time, I actually thought it was great because I could tell right away that there was a community there. There were people knew each other. They knew the moves. They knew what to do. I didn't see that as intimidating, like I don't belong here, or what are they going to think of me? I thought, this is fantastic. I will be able to learn a lot from this coach and from these people. And quite frankly, I don't care if they think I'm weak. I don't care if they think this. I don't care if they think that. And of course, they didn't think that, but it didn't matter to me. I just was there for myself, and was I was actually I wasn't expecting to feel as included as I did. I knew that I was not your how do I put it? Your kind of textbook team training person. I wasn't, I was a little older. I was a little less fit. I was a little less experienced than most of the people there. But I felt completely included and welcome from the very first start, and that never changed.
Oh, thank you. No,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And that's something that we work hard on, right? Like, we want to make sure that everyone can feel safe, can express themselves, and like you said, be the best version of yourselves.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? I think, and the reason I asked that question, which you answered beautifully, is because I think people feel exposed, right? There's safety in numbers. So to step out of the masses into a smaller group, right? Or even a one-on-one training option, you're suddenly becoming more and more in the view of the person that's leading the way. And I think the fear of that sometimes is they're going to pick out my flaws, my weaknesses, and I'm just going to feel like I can't do anything, right? And you kind of articulated it that, sure, you went through those moments, but you also flipped the mental approach, which was, I have to kind of know that to be able to do better, right? To be the best version of myself. So taking that first step of bravery is hard. Being open to feedback is hard, but if we're of the right mindset, I believe we can make change in a safe environment for the better.
Yeah.
So I have some questions.
Of course you do.
I'm just because I've been sitting here pondering. I want to go back to the bravery thing. I think there's two things that I think will empower anyone listening today that's on a fitness journey, but also just in life. This is something that fascinates me. You spoke a lot, Susan, about the bravery to step into that environment and try something. And you spoke to being surrounded by people that, know more than you, that about that topic, or not being the smartest person in the room, so to speak. That's a very popular quote. I'd love, and this is going to really put you on the spot, but I'd love to hear your take on how you build that resiliency in life and how you've built that ability to be brave, because I believe that a lot of people listening would not be that brave in that environment.
I think it comes down to the old fraudster syndrome, that so many people have the feeling that they're not as good as other people think, and that someday somebody's going to figure that out. Yeah, it's quite common. And so for that reason, people in all areas of their lives feel a need to cover up what they see as their weaknesses, because they fear that if they are honest about that people will all of a sudden realize what a fraud they've been all along and how they're completely useless. But we all know that that's not true. And so for me, the revelation came in my working environment. So as I worked along and became known as good at certain things, or took on certain leadership roles, I really relished that, and I loved that. And then as I was working with other people, and they were as good or better than me in aspects of that, I just thought, if this is a person that I've worked with, or maybe I've trained, if everyone sees that they're really, really good, i.e. better than me, maybe that will actually reflect well on me, because it's not just that I can do that thing well. I was also able to mentor somebody else to do it well too. And so that became incredibly empowering for me to really step back and let other people do stuff that in the past I had been kind of the go-to person for. And it was really, it was just incredibly empowering. And so that flows over. I love, how do I put it? I love learning stuff. And so if I'm going to devote my time to it, I want to get all that I can out of it. And so that's, I think, another aspect of it. But yeah, that's it. And you know what? There's if you take any aspect of me, anything that I do, anything about me, there's somebody who does it better and somebody who's got more of it, and there's somebody who doesn't do it as well and somebody who has less of it. And there's certain things that I do really, really well, and there's certain things that I do really poorly. And understanding and accepting that has been is another really empowering thing, because then I don't try to be what I'm not, and I'm actually proud of and accept what I am good at. And so then it kind of can calm me down about the stuff I'm not good at. I'm the first one to admit when I'm not good at something, because I know I'm good at a lot of stuff.
I love that. And that's very, very powerful. It'll resonate with a lot of people listening. And hopefully this doesn't affect anyone listening to the rest of this episode, because it's going to be really impactful. But I suggest you go back and listen to that last 2 minutes again, and write some notes if you're listening, because I'm going to do the same thing when I re-listen, because there's some really powerful messages in there.
Yeah.
I have one other one that I need to go back to, because now we're on the flow of, it's like Susan's advice show, and I love it. And I feel like you've got something else for the listeners, something that, and I wrote this down and I was like, no, I won't ask it, because then Nikki's head will blow up with all the compliments, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You mentioned that when you did Nikki's class and you experienced what she does, whatever it is that creates that, that environment and that want for more, I feel like I see on social media and in all different forms of communication, a lot of advice on what we should be looking for from a coach, or what we should be looking for from a real estate agent, or whatever it is, a nutritionist. That could be anything in life. And I see a lot of these posts, and they're curated by professionals. So it's, for example, me telling people what you should be looking for in a coach. That's what I think people should be looking for. However, although I have been coached and I'm a consumer of coaching, predominantly I'm a coach. So my view is a little skewed on that. I'd love to hear what it was that Nikki did in that class that made you say, that's the person I want to train with, and not to inflate our ego too much.
No,
but
I'm curious
people,
now. I'm curious.
For people listening that are in an environment and they're like, I don't know if this is the right class, this person does, I don't feel like I'm getting something. Or the other side, they're going somewhere, they're like, yes, this is the person I'm going to invest in. And maybe it will help give them a little bit of a nudge to take that brave step.
Yeah. This particular class I had done, I think this was the third one I had done with different people. And so I noticed immediately a complete difference in the way Nikki taught this same class that I had previously done. And some of the things that I remember were, again, the 100, she was just completely there with every move. I don't know how many billions of times she'd done some of those moves, but she was completely there with every move, in her demonstration of it, in her explanation of it, in her coaching of it, in her reaching out in the room and coaching, when she saw people, coaching form a bit. The cues, I think one of the things I think you both do so well is the coaching cues, because, how about, shoulders up to the ears. Nikki, I don't know if Nikki had $1 for every time she told me to get my shoulders out of my ears, you guys wouldn't be doing this podcast, because you'd be living on some fantastic island somewhere. But
it's so funny, Susan. Now I just go, hey, Susan, and you do it, and I don't have to say anymore.
Yeah. And I could beat myself up over, I know my shoulders go up. Why can't I figure that out for myself? But instead I go, thank goodness I'm working with Gareth and Nikki, and they're going to get my shoulders down when they need to be. But not just that, but the cues of, I can't think of an example, but how, how you're doing a certain move and you're not sure you're doing it well, but it's like pressing an orange under your armpit sort of thing. Those kinds of cues, I think there were lots of those in there. And so for moves that were new to me, it helped me understand right away how to focus and try and do it well. So I think those were some of the things that made me realize that this was a person. There was a complete contrast between Nicky's coaching style and the other people that I had met so far on my gym journey.
Yeah.
Can I just Can I just talk about showing up? Because I think it's a thing, I think we've kind of been talking around this about, but it's easy to, sometimes things are tough or whatever. And another life lesson that I've brought to fitness is showing up, is just show up. And I think I think you see this in fitness stuff too, but as soon as I never once regret the second a class starts. I never regret coming. And the second it's over, I'm so glad I came. And so the notion of just show up, and maybe you're not feeling like, I'm not really up for it today. I've heard people say stuff like that. Or maybe even it's like, I've had classes where I'm just like, I can't seem to do, my shoulders won't do what they're supposed to do. And I just kind of can't, I don't feel in the groove, but it's like, just do the best you can for the time that you have here. But the notion of showing up and letting things flow, I think is so important. That's the most important thing, is just show up. And can I say that, like everybody in the world, I have a million opportunities to do non-live online training, including your the library that you guys continue to build. But there is nothing like knowing that you are there teaching the class live to show up, because the problem with the recorded stuff is like, well, I could do it now, but yeah, I could do it in half an hour, or I could do it later today, or you know what? Oh, I guess I didn't do it. And so that for me, I know that's not for everyone, but for me, the live classes, it makes it so easy for me to show up. And I think that's a real success to me, is the consistency. It's not necessarily, the intensity that I might be training with, but it's the consistency of my training that has been such a success for me.
So I'm hearing consistency, I'm hearing accountability. And I love that you said, just show up, just get there. And the first thing that you said about my coaching was the fact that I was 100% present. Yeah. So I showed up too, right? Having that mutual respect where it's like, I'm here, and you know what? I'm here too.
Yeah.
And let's celebrate that. Let's do this together. Let's take this time, whether it's 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, together to really be the best version of ourselves, whatever that looks like today. And I think that reciprocal energy and commitment builds the trust. And then from there, speaking now as a coach rather than a participant in a class, that then gives me permission to give out those cues, because they're wanted. Do you know what I mean? And they're landing. And then because they're landing, it then gives me the ability to give the follow-up cues as well, and the analogies that you mentioned that you enjoy. So, and I think sometimes this is where it doesn't always gel, right? Like if you haven't equal parts haven't showed up, then we might not have, a great experience. But then there's also different personalities and other different circumstances. Don't get me wrong. But, I think that's instantly one of the reasons why we gel. There was just that mutual, just that level of energy, understanding, and commitment. And I think that's how you identified I was kind of your person. Right? Kind of going back to Gareth's question a little bit. And maybe that was the way that you felt comfortable. That was almost the permission. And I'm using that word very, very lightly, because you didn't need anyone's permission. But that was almost that, like, okay, I'm going to say something today, and I'm going to say it to this person.
Can I add something that I'd forgotten? And that is the main reason I joined that particular gym is it's walking a close walking distance from my home. And so that class that you were teaching was not your home location. It was in this alternate location. And so I remember you said, well, I teach this thing, but it's not here.
It's not here. Yeah.
Other location that is like a an hour walk probably or more from my home. But I did not hesitate. And so that instantly became my new home gym, which then entailed like a long walk and a bit of a transit, or in the summer, I started riding my bike there, which was another huge benefit. So again, it's the, okay, I'm going here, but only because it's close. And then, well, okay, now you're going to move here. It's like, okay, fine.
I'm going to do whatever I'm told.
And but why was it fine? Like, why did you want to? Because essentially you were going out of your way to make that work. Like, I'm curious, like, why was that okay?
Well, because I think moving, getting to class became part of the fitness for the day. Apart from my workouts, I love to walk, and most days I will go for a very long walk. And so when it moved, I just thought, well, that's great. I can't walk all the way there, but I could walk a lot. So I'd walk a lot of the way there, and then hop on transit for a little bit of the way, just if time was short. And then in the summer, I started riding my bike there, which I love to do anyway. So it just became an extended part of my workout. That's why it became okay.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you just didn't see it as a barrier. You saw it as a way to amplify or add on to the positive changes and decisions you had made.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note for everyone listening too, is that's a really great piece of advice for your overall health and fitness, because you are working out a lot less than you are working out, unless you're maybe a professional athlete. So what you do in between those workouts has the same, if not more, impact on your overall health and well-being than your actual physical 45 minutes of working out, whatever it might be. So yeah, that's a really top piece of advice. I'd love to just kind of summarize that. I feel like this is what we touched on there. I want to bring it back and make it really succinct for everybody listening, because there are so many parallels and we have a lot of everyone listening today. You're either a fitness consumer or you're a fitness professional. Here's what I took away from that last 5 or 10 minutes was, if you're a fitness consumer, show up 100%.
Yeah.
If you're a fitness professional, show up 100%. So it's the same message. And the second thing to that is, if you are a fitness consumer, what are you learning from your coach? Not how hard you're working or any of those other things. What are you learning from your coach? And if you're a fitness professional, what do the people in front of you need to learn? And if I could drop this microphone here, I would drop it.
That's why you've been sitting quietly.
And we are done.
Mulling that over
I was.
to drop that.
I wrote notes and everything.
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And when that happens on both sides, like you say, that both sides are doing that, coming with a learning mindset and a teaching mindset and a commitment mindset and an engagement mindset, if both sides are doing that, it's a success right off the bat. Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
Well, I'm so happy that you had that conversation with me that day.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew it was the start of something special. And I actually came home and said to you, I was like, I just had this great conversation, blah, blah, blah. And, and here we are 4.5 years later. I knew you said 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
4.5 years. But what's really cool, Susan, is 4.5 years. Like, some people might be thinking, well, aren't you bored yet? But it's a valid point, right? Like, in that 4.5 years, what's kept you coming?
Well, if something is perfect, I don't care how boring it is.
Are you talking specifically to me? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm feeling it.
But 4.5 years, I'm still waiting for you to do hand me the same workout twice. Well, that hasn't happened yet. You would think by the laws of chance that eventually it would be never the same. Fitness and workout is so much about fundamentals, right? So once again, how many rear lunges have I done? Are they perfect? No way. I've still got a real journey to do with those. And every time I do one, it makes me stronger, and I like doing them. So I will never tire of them, never tire of the basics. So that's part of it. And of course, with your with your online academy, like I've loved the variety of classes, because there's a lot of different things that you know, that the sort of short snippets of different things. So like this, like I've as you know, I came from an injury last year, and so I was kind of slowly getting back to certain things, but like the, you know, the strength classes are fantastic. Like, so being able to focus, that's kind of newer in my palette of what I'm doing with you guys. And I think that variety of classes, it would never be boring for me. But no two classes has ever been the same.
What's been your favorite class, or your favorite, I don't know, move? Like what's, because you mentioned earlier as well, like there's some things I'm really good at and I really dig, and then there are some things where I'm like, seriously, like what? Like if
I don't know why I've always loved goblet squats. I just I just feel really powerful when I do them. I just kind of, how do I put it? I can click into them very quickly and within a few reps. So that's one of my really favorite moves. You know, the yoga ability was fantastic for me, because another thing that I had never ever done is any kind of yoga. And so the yoga ability was just a wonderful kind of introduction for me into the yoga world. And to this day, I continue with that, of course. But it's, you know, I love them all.
even the burpees?
I even love burpees.
Yay!
I love burpees. I love burpees because they humble me, and it's worth being humbling once in a while. You know, I love burpees.
Yeah, and there's a really
I don't like 45 of them in one workout.
noted.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Fair
right.
point.
You're just giving me ideas now.
We did 45 in one workout. You've forgotten. I haven't.
Probably more than once that's happened.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that there's that constant there's things to keep you engaged, because we aren't always motivated, and there's going to be times, like you've already touched on, Susan, that where, you know, you don't always feel like doing it, and, you know, maybe it's, you know, you're not on form that day. But when there's something to engage you, whether that's coaching, the creativity in that, the variation, whatever that is, it gives you that choice. And that's really what we wanted to create. But what's also important to note in what you said is there is no two workouts are the same. And I want to come back to that, because I think this is really important for anybody, you know, listening today, is there is creativity within the training that we do. But the creativity comes from the way in which you organize things and you plan things as a coach. This is important to remember, because creativity for creativity's sake typically can have a negative effect on somebody's training experience. However, you mentioned goblet squats. There's barely a workout that goes by without a goblet squat in it, or some sort of squat variation like that. Goblet squats is something we do a lot with home-based training. It's very effective. It's creative in where it's put in the workout, what it's paired up with, how it's designed, whether it's a strength session or a metcon session or whatever it might be, or even a squat in yoga, for example. But the fundamentals are there. And this is where I think constantly changing things for the sake of it is where we can see that negative. And we see this a lot in the industry. So we really try and stick with keeping the same fundamentals there, because really the foundational movements and exercise have not changed for as long as I've been around, and way beyond that. They're very much the same, but how we put them together. So we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with the repetition of movement. However, if you can find a way that keeps you engaged from a creativity, some people don't need that. I know people that do the same workout, the same things, and there's, you know, like a power lifter, for example, will squat, bench, and deadlift, and that's all they do. And they're happy doing that repetitively. And that's great if you find that. But that's really also an important piece of advice, is you look for something that's keeps you engaged, but also is effective. And we're still doing the same fundamentals, and we're learning to do them well with repetition, which is what you mentioned. So I really, really love that. And that's a great piece of advice for any consumer of fitness that's listening.
Yeah.
I think we also keep it varied, and varied in exercise variations, but varied in also pairings, because it depends on the goal, right? A lot of what we do is functional movement. And you mentioned that, Susan, when you go for your hikes or you go snowshoeing, is, what movements can we do today to work on balance, coordination, and proprioception? So sure, I might put a goblet squat, but the variation of of that squat might look different. We might be off-centered somehow. Maybe we pair it up with something. So what I've kind of learned from today is, the methodology and the approach of our training is showing up in what you're able to do in your day-to-day life. And I think that truly is the power right there. And maybe why after 4.5 years you're not bored, because it's affecting in a good way your life, your movement, and just the functional ability of doing the activities that you love.
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel so lucky to be able to train with you and to be able to consistently work out and feel the way I do. It's just it's a privilege for me. It really is.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And everyone listening, you also can be very lucky and train with us.
Yes.
Just come visit us at the nockacademy.com.
Just try one. Yeah.
Oh my
Drop that in
goodness. Well, look, Gareth kind of joked earlier that it was Susan's advice show, but you have dropped so many wonderful tips and insight into this this episode. But I guess to wrap up the episode, just to summarize it, I guess, what kind of top tips would you give to somebody that was you 4.5 years ago?
I think set aside all your preconceptions. Set aside your preconceptions about what those incredibly fit people that you see there are thinking. Put aside your preconceptions about what you can do. Put aside your preconceptions about worrying about what you look like, and just do it for yourself and focus on how it makes you feel. Don't start with a goal to be able to lift this much or jump this high. Just try it and see how it makes you feel. Just start with that. And then you would be absolutely amazed as to where it will take you. And the other thing, celebrate your small successes. I think that's another really big one. Don't waste a moment of your precious energy on things that you think you could have done better or things that you can't do. Celebrate your small successes all along the way, because if you do that, you'll find out there's an awful lot of them.
Yeah, good advice for life and running a business and anything.
Yeah, in anything and everything. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and thank you for sharing your story and giving me a little bit of insight as well, right? Some of that stuff I didn't know. So I really appreciate it. Here's to another 4.5 million years to get together.
Yes. Yep.
I really look forward to it. So I'm going to hand over to Gareth. Is there anything that you want to add in to wrap up our session today?
It's been a pleasure chatting, but just a pleasure having you as a member of the Academy, and getting to train with you a bit more, because obviously Nicky had all that pleasure initially of getting to work with you. So having you in those sessions, and I truly appreciate your sense of humor above everything else, being there and showing up and doing that. It always gives me a good laugh, and interactions are part of what we do, the community side of it, and that's as important to us as it is to everyone else. So that was my kind of passing thought.
Susan, is there anything you want to add?
Well, just thank you so very much for all that you bring to my life. Really, it's I couldn't be more grateful to have the Nock Academy, in my life. Honestly, it's I'm just pleased, speechless about how important it is to me, and how much I appreciate and treasure what I get from you.
Oh, thank you so much. Like I said, it was so great talking to you. Let's do it again sometime.
Sure.
I love it. For Susan's advice part 2. But no, in all seriousness, thank you so much for coming on. You're a great friend as well as a great client, and it's always a pleasure having you in session.
Great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.